Greetings one and all. Super Mondays here in the land of Israel. The Holy Land, the holy settlement of Elon Moreshchem. My home. Welcome in. Come on inside. Yes, we are on the 27th day of the month of Tevet, finishing off the month 5784. Today's class, extremely important. As always, subscribe and share it with others and get the message out. We only have 2 righteous channels that are giving out, sending out this Torah. And once again, we take this opportunity to thank our great sponsor, the great channel, Mike, 3+ months down south volunteering with all of his helpers down there in the south. Tremendous teacher of self-sacrifice, tremendous righteous person, amazing. And also to another great sponsor of ours, Torah, the greatest blog in the land. That's also not only the land of Israel, but all over. Check it out, Torah. Check out her blog. Thank you very much. Also to our veteran cameraman, Elchanan Gilboa, who is in from the south of Israel, from Hebron, Kiryat Arba Hebron, doing on the camera, lights, camera, and action. He's our man from Hollywood. Okay, today, a very, very important class. Hashtag, bring them home now, ? Hashtag, bring them home now, ? Okay. First, we'll take it from the top. All our classes are with the intention of doing God's will, of bringing the divine presence out of the exile to become a little bit better people, a little bit better Jews. Okay, with that, we're off to the races. The importance of redeeming hostages. In Tractate Bava Batra, page 8, side B, based on a verse in the prophet Jeremiah 15:2, the most difficult hardship in life, and there's a list, but the most difficult one is being a captive. In that same Talmud, same tractate, releasing captives is a tremendous mitzvah. Doesn't say that. Of course, all mitzvahs are tremendous and great, but to spell it right out, there are not that many. In the Tractate of Bava Batra, page 3, side B, if money was collected to build a synagogue, which is a pretty important undertake, if all of a sudden, as they're building or they finished, or as this project goes on, a Jew is taken captive, you could use the money that was raised for the synagogue for returning one Jewish captive. That's an amazing thing. Think about a synagogue. Synagogue has a place for tens of people, hundreds of people, dozens of people, whatever it might be. So that's pretty powerful, redeeming captives. Maimonides, in Gifts for the Poor, chapter 8, law 10, he writes, the Maimonides writes that a person that ignores freeing captives transgresses 6 commandments. It's a lot. 6 commandments. Number 1, do not harden your heart to the needy. Deuteronomy 15:7. 2, do not stand idly by your brother's blood. Leviticus 19:16. 3, do not subjugate harshly your brother. Numbers 25:53. 4, open your hand generously. Deuteronomy 15:8. Leviticus 25:36. Your brother shall live with you or like you, similar to your living. Last but not least, number 6, Transgression number 6, for those that do not make an effort to free the captives. Love your neighbor, Leviticus 19:18. Code of Jewish Law, the Shulchan Aruch, Yoredea, 252, chapter 252, Law 1. There is no mitzvah greater than freeing the captives. In Tractate of Chulin, page 7, side A. The famous sage, Rabbi Pinchas ben Yair, splits a river in order to free and redeem captives. Splits a river. It's this like, you went to the Charlton Heston and you saw the splitting of the sea. Well, this is like part 2. This was like Rocky 2. This is 10 Commandments number 2. Okay. A famous Hasidic Rebbe who lived from 1745 to 1807. Rabbi Moshe Leib of Sosov. He was one of the early Hasidic Rebbes in Europe. He was the founder of the Sosov Destiny. One of the big mitzvahs, commandments that he took upon himself was to free and redeem Jewish captives. And at the beginning of his career, he himself was kidnapped. And he couldn't understand why, because he had accepted upon himself early on in his career that he was going to partake in this tremendous commandment of freeing captives. And all of a sudden now he's in captivity. Why did this happen to me? So he goes to sleep, and no less than Elijah the prophet appears to him in his sleep and explains why. So Rabbi Moshe Leib is explaining, listen, in order to really go full steam ahead, saving captives, first the person has to feel the pain of a captive himself. Amazing. This holy rabbi who undertook to save Jews from captivity, he himself had to first taste a little bit of that till he was released soon after, in order that he would go with a fervor to observe this commandment. So, with all this said, up until now, a lot of heavy stuff. We proceed with sensitivity. We proceed with caution. We proceed with trepidation. That our words should be correct and the Torah way. May it be Hashem's will. So let us begin our journey. In two very interesting books that were written on the subject of Jewish captivity throughout the ages, one by a man named Eliezer Bashan. His book is called Hostages and Freedom, or Dr. Rabbi Shlomo Rosenfeld, Asif publication. Both of them explain, very interesting, that throughout history, the Jewish people have been targeted more than any other people due to the fact that the kidnappers understood and they saw facts on the ground. It was proven to them over and over again that the Jewish people, more than any other people, were willing to go the extra 9 yards for their fellow brothers. This is something in the Jewish DNA, to save captives. This did not exist in the entire world, and therefore this became a gigantic problem because of the Jewish care and love for one another. Therefore, we were targeted throughout history for kidnapping. Very interesting. We see the websites, hashtag, bring them home now. Free the hostages now. And all of us should ask, now, at any cost, anything goes? What about other national considerations, other security considerations? Now, we have to make a deal, whatever the demands are. If they're asking for, if we're interested in return of the hostages, we have to give them Tel Aviv, Ashkelon, Bnei Brak. Or perhaps they want some tanks, airplanes. Okay, I guess at any cost. So the now, bring them home now, and at any cost, that is very, very dangerous propaganda, unfortunately. Our enemies, for sure, we've heard this also in the media, they're watching. They're watching very closely, especially on this hostage issue, to see what it will create, what will it cause in Israel. And they're putting their money on the fact that they're betting that as time goes on, protests in Israel for the freedom of the hostages at all and any costs will begin mounting. The pressure on the military, the pressure on the government will begin to mount, to capitulate to these terrorists. Unfortunately, it's a boomerang, because such protests just play into the hands of our Nazi enemies, who will use this to harden their demands. The enemies of Israel all over the world, they see the Jewish Achilles heel, and they're manipulating this Jewish Achilles heel. They know that this is our weakness. A quote from last week's Jerusalem Post. Anger has mounted amongst the hostage families who have accused the government of prioritizing the destruction of Hamas over the return of their loved ones. I'm going to read that again. Anger has mounted amongst the hostage families who have accused the government of prioritizing the destruction of Hamas over the return of their loved ones. Folks, we all feel, it goes without saying, but I'm just going to say it once. We all feel, and everyone is doing their best. Everyone is participating what they could do in helping out the hostages. Our hearts bleed for them. However, that statement is really amazing. We're talking about 200 people. We're talking about endangering a country of 7 million Jews. 7 million Jews. $7 million Jews here are in existential threat, danger, and what has to be a priority is the freeing of the hostages. This is backwards thinking. As we say in the Talmud, Yachid v'rabim halacha kirabim. When you have one opinion and the opinion of many overcomes the opinion of the individual. May God save us. National Security Council head Tzachi Hanegbi recently stated, Israel will not hold negotiations with an enemy that we have vowed to wipe off the face of the earth. His comments prompted fury from the families of the hostages, accusing the government of abandoning them. An organization called Free the Hostages Now declare on its website, join our urgent call to the Israeli government to make a deal now for the release of hostages. I mean, let's make a deal is good if you're Monty Hall and you're Carol Merrill, but let's make a deal now. Dearest friends, stopping the war in Israel, as was done a month ago, is a threat to Israel's continued existence. The Muslim world, the entire world is looking and seeing how vulnerable the Jewish people are. If we do not stand like a rock, frightening to think what our future, if we think that what we saw on Simchat Torah on October 7th was a one-time event, if we do not change our concepts, our ideology, we're in tremendous, tremendous danger. Prime Minister Netanyahu, speaking recently at a conference, spoke about the importance of the IDF fighting on, as this is what will bring the hostages home, fighting against the enemy that will put them with their backs against the wall and have more of a leaning to release the hostages. He was interrupted by some of the hostage families, shouting him down, calling for their loved ones to be released now. Opposition leader, initials, I don't like saying his name, YL, commented, the hostage issue is more pressing than the crippling of Hamas. The comment was met with applause by the hostage families. Trying to get a little bit of votes on the back of the hostage families. Yes. Folks, let's delve into a frightening subject. Let's look at the results of previous hostage exchanges here in the land of Israel and the results. So here we go. Israel, unfortunately, has in the last 40 years tremendous record of capitulation to terror and terror organizations. 1985, May, 1,150 terrorists were released for 3 soldiers. 1,150 for 3 soldiers. It's called the Jabril deal. This This was the catalyst of the first uprising, what we call Intifada, by the Arabs. 2 years later, in December 1987, where 84 Jews were murdered. Listen to it closely again. The catalyst of this exchange created the first Arab uprising in Israel, killing 84 Jews. 84 Jews were killed and 3 soldiers were released. This cries out to the heavens. Listen closely. Clean your ears for this one. According to the head of Israel's Secret Service, Yuval Diskin, he stated the following: the release of Arab prisoners in the Jibril deal was the main catalyst of creating the first uprising. The released prisoners built new leadership with its extreme activities. This, along with the fact that the Arabs succeeded forcing Israel to capitulate via the prisoners' release, fueled this victory and this uprising. Amazing. The head of the Secret Service, black and white. This is not something, okay, that's not something Brother Yehuda came up with. This is the head of the Secret Service, the Shin Bet, led to the killing of 84 Jews in exchange for 3 hostages. And we're not talking about all the injured, which are, of course, more than those that were murdered. Next. In 2011, Gilad Shalit, the Jewish soldier, was released in exchange for 1,027 prisoners. Those prisoners released 12 years ago proved to be the leadership that brought us the October 7th Simchat Torah massacre, where 1,400 Jews in one day were killed. May his name be erased. Also, Sinwar was in that hostage prisoner exchange. This brought us 1,400 Jews in one day. The biggest amount, the largest amount of Jews killed since the Holocaust. 3,500 Jews injured in one day. This was caused by the exchange of 1 soldier. With all the respect and with all the pain, this cannot happen again. This cannot happen again. Let's look at a short list of some of the terrorists released a month ago. These are poor souls that I guess they're not experienced, professional enough, that they weren't successful in killing. So you get out of prison, you get out, you're freed as a prisoner because of the fact that you messed up. You know what they say, try again. Maybe next time, God forbid, they'll get it correct. What a warped concept. terrorists that don't have blood on their hands. Whoever made up that concept. Oh. Okay, here we go. There was a terrorist that was sentenced for attempted murder of Or Viner in last July in Gilo, next to Jerusalem. Attempted murder. He was released. Hope you feel safe out there. A resident of Jerusalem, 40-year-old woman with Israeli citizenship, of course. She was given 14 years on attempted murder. Now she's out after just 7 years. A female terrorist, 23, from Jerusalem, once again a citizen of Israel, was sentenced to attempted murder and 9 years in prison. She tried to stab to death a Border Patrol police person in front of the Damascus gate. Today she is one of the leading spokeswomen of Hamas. A male terrorist, 27 years old, sentenced to attempted murder. After 8 years, he's getting out. A female terrorist from Jerusalem, also attempted murder. She sat half of her sentence of 16 years. Another female terrorist who tried to set off a gas balloon next to Ma'ale Adumim outside of Yerushalayim, and she injured a policeman. She's out now. It was 2 years ago. Now she got out 9 years before. A terrorist, I'm not mentioning any of their names because we say may their name be erased. Terrorist of 17 years old. He was sentenced to 15 years on attempted murder. He's released after a year of stabbing a Jew outside of the Jaffa Gate. A female terrorist of 16 years old of Jerusalem, also a citizen of Israel, 12 years for attempted murder in front of the tomb of Shimon HaTzadik in Jerusalem, trying to murder a woman and her baby in a baby carriage. Okay, so I hope everyone feels safe out there today. Those are some of the terrorists that were released 1 month ago, and they're back on the streets in Israel. And as we said, try again, God forbid. If they weren't successful in killing, I guess now they have another chance to do it. Statistics. According to the organization, the Almagor organization, between the years 1993 and 1999, 6 years, 6,912 prisoners were released. 14% returned to murdered Jews and were caught. A higher percentage, more than 14% who were caught while murdering Jews, a higher percentage returned to kill Jews but were not caught. They're still on the loose. 70% of those 6,912 prisoners released in those 6 years returned to violent activity against the state of Israel. During those 6 years, 123 Jews were killed by those that were released. I'll say that number again. 123 Jews were killed by those that were released. We released a handful of Jews. In return, we have hundreds of Jews that are murdered. Thousands of Jews that are maimed, perhaps some for life, crippled, paralyzed, mutilated. May Hashem have mercy on us. Many of the released prisoners without blood on their hands returned to murder Jews. Try again. Folks, we have to understand that while there are many pure-hearted souls out there that are part of the movement to free the hostages, there are many, many elements to these movements who are not pure and not innocent. Within these movements, there are political interests, politicians. I'll bring up a recent case about a week and a half ago, an amazing interview. The wicked Ehud Barak, former prime minister in the year 2000 of Israel, a person that offered the Arabs 95% of Judea, Samaria, Gaza, and East Jerusalem. 95%. Thank God the Arabs are stupid, are more stupid than we are. And they refused. The same person, the same guy who was behind the anti-government protests that we suffered for the last year, the anti-judicial reform groups, one of the leaders, the main honchos, is this Barak, Shem Rishayim Yerkav. In a recent interview 10 days ago, he explained that those persons, those personalities that were in the forefront of the anti-judicial movement protests now have to take a back seat. He understands that the winds have changed in Israel over the last 3 months after this massacre. So there's a lot of people that are upset with this group. So the leaders, previous leaders, they still have to lead, but not be in the forefront. That is to be left to others. And he says black and white, straight out, we must use the hostage issue to bring down the government. On the backs of these poor families, we have corrupt politicians, a person that would sell his own mother, on the back of these poor people, trying to use this free the hostage movement to bring down the government. That is the catalyst towards their goal. The release of Gilad Shalit, his family finally hired a PR organization to run the campaign. PR. He's the son of all of us, was the flag. Hayeled shel kulanu, son of all of us. If you notice, we haven't heard from the Shalit family in the past 3 months. giving interviews. PR wins over security considerations. If you know how to sell the product, if you're a salesman, then to hell with security considerations, because we will, whatever it takes, we will sell our product. And Gilad Shalit was released. And the rest is history, of course. Today, behind the leader of Free the Hostages Now, Bring Them Home Now, is a man named Ronen Sur. Shem Rishayim Yirkav. In 2004, Sur began his career in publicity campaigns, PR, and advertising. He has worked for election campaigns for the far left-wing parties of Yisrael Beitenu, the Labour Party, and Gantz's party. Last year, he spearheaded the anti-judicial reform movement. Now he runs the campaign of Free the Hostages. Tzur tried to close down the right-wing channel 14, trying to close down. We don't want to hear your side of the coin, the right wing. Need I say more? I will quote to you what the head of the Mossad, Rami Igra, whose position, he's in charge of the hostage office in the Mossad. Last month he publicized that Mr. Tzur has caused tremendous damage to the hostages and raised the price of freeing them. Who needs me when we have Rami Igra, the head of the Mossad, talking about how much damage this campaign has brought upon the Jewish people, the Jewish nation. Hats off to you, Ronen Sur. How does the Torah, the Tanakh, deal with hostages? So let's go over some cases. First, we should all know that this disease is from time immemorial. Kidnapping of people. Where do we see it? Listen to this. Most people don't realize that. When we hear the commandment of don't steal, we're thinking about, well, don't steal money, don't steal property. That is one part of don't steal. However, there's an other opposite side of the coin. And we have two sources. Number one, in the Ten Commandments, we have in Exodus 20, chapter 20, verse 13. In Leviticus, we have 19:11. So, in Leviticus, is talking about stealing money, material, commodities, etc. In the Exodus, in the Ten Commandments, we're talking about kidnapping people. And this is brought down by the Jewish law experts, Yiraim 253, or the Smog 154. This is a plague of history. People kidnapping others. So let's take a quick look at the Torah, the Tanakh response to kidnappers and hostages. So we'll take it from the top. Lot, Abraham's nephew, is kidnapped. Abraham goes out to war against 4 nations. 4 nations, takes 318 men with him. Notice there are no negotiations. He goes and, thank God, victorious, and he frees Lot. Sarah Abraham's wife, was kidnapped twice, once by Pharaoh and once by Avimelech. In both cases, no negotiations, of course. God, so to speak, took the wheel, and he brought upon plague and illness to these two kings, one of Egypt and the other one of the Philistines. Dinah, Jacob's daughter, was kidnapped in the city of Shechem, what the Gentiles call Nablus. Jacob's family rises up. They do have negotiations, but they were negotiations to have them caught off guard. It wasn't capitulation. It wasn't giving up 3 soldiers and then having hundreds of people dead, murdered. According to the Rama Mipano in his book Gilgulim, Jacob's family, extended family, killed 24,000 residents of the city of Shechem that dared kidnap his daughter. Now, you know, it says it takes 2 to tango. Well, it takes only one person to kidnap. Even so, the city, I guess there were no innocent Gazans in Shechem. You know, those innocent civilians of Gaza. I guess they didn't have them there. 24,000 blown away. Next. We're in the 40th year of being in the desert. The king of Arad, this is in Numbers 21, verse 1. There's a war between Israel and the Canaanites. A woman's servant is captured. Israel goes out to war. To rescue one maidservant and destroys the entire population. Once again, I guess there were no innocent Gazan civilians in this town of the king of Arad in the outskirts of Israel. Interesting. Now, into the prophets. In Shmuel, first book of Shmuel, chapter 27 through chapter 30, we have King David is on the run from King Saul, and he reaches the southern town of Gat. And he meets up with the king of Gat. His name was Achish. And Achish, the king of Gat, he gives David, who is accompanied with 600 men and their families, he gives them a community to settle. That was a place in the south, not too far away from Gaza, called Tsiklag. David settles there for a bit over 4 months, and then a war breaks out between Israel and the Philistines, King Saul and the Philistines. Now David is playing spy versus spy. He's playing, double spy here. So he has to look as if he's going out to help the Philistines and the king of Gat, Achish. So he goes out, and there another group of Philistine fighters see that King David is out with the Philistine fighters. They said, "Isn't that King David with his men?" "Yeah, what's the problem?" The king Achish says, "Problem? You know, he's from Israel. You can't trust him." "Listen, I trust him," the king says. "I trust him 100%. "Listen, we don't trust him. Send him back to his village." So, apologizing, the king of Gat, Achish, he apologized to David. "Listen, I really trust you, buddy, but you have to go back." He goes back. King David and the 600 men, they come back and they see that all the women and all the children have been kidnapped. And the entire community, the entire village of Tziklak, has been destroyed, burned, and the spoils taken. So, no negotiations here to get the women and the children back. King David takes his 600 men. He goes and he fights against Amalek, who were responsible for this, and they kill all of the population of Amalek except for 400 people that had a certain merit, and they were able to escape. Amazing book. I'll give a little bit of background on this. Some 450 years ago in Italy, there was a fourth generation doctor. His name was Rabbi Avraham Bar David, the doctor. He died in 1612. He was a genius. He was a great Torah scholar, and also a genius. Besides for being a great Torah scholar, he was also a genius in the various sciences. In his book, it's called Shiltei HaGiborim, he writes 24 pages full of Torah advice receiving from the Torah advice how to fight various battles. Now, when I saw this book, I couldn't believe it, because it brought me back many years ago, when I had the merit to teach 6 years in Rabbi Binyamin Zev Kahana, Zecher Tzadik V'Kadosh Livracha Hashem Yikom Damo, in his yeshiva in the Holy Apple. For 6 years, I had the privilege to be with Rabbi Kahana. One time, they brought down a IDF historian, a famous IDF historian. His name is Uri Milstein. Today, he's still going strong. Amazing guy, a genius when it comes to military. He gave us a class. My mouth was open. He's given a class, and he's showing how the Jews had a special way of fighting. He's going through different portions of the Torah and the Tanakh and showing us that the Jews have special tactics and techniques. Woo! Everybody was Kung Fu fighting. Everyone was Jew fighting. Amazing. So all of a sudden, a couple weeks ago, I run into this book. Amazing book. 24 pages. Where he's able to siphon out tactics that the Jews used in battle. 24 pages. Anyways, he brings, for example, if we want to know how to take care of hostage issues. Wow, sounds like today. Well, all we have to do is look in the Torah and learn, delve into the subject. How did Avraham, how was he able to successfully free Lot with only 318 men? That is our source. That should be our source. Or if we're interested, how to avenge when something is done, a crime is done against the Jewish people, how to avenge that. We go to Shimon and Levi in the city of Shechem in Nablus, and we remember when Dinah was captured, when she was kidnapped and she was raped, and what the Jewish response was there. 24,000 Nabalites, Nabalites killed. And he ends off all of this information that has been lost. Who thinks of Jews as fighters? But that is not true blue Judaism. We've lost it over 2,000 years because of the fact that we've been in exile. We haven't had that opportunity. Understandably, we've lost that side. But it was a tremendous side in the Tanakh and in the first and second temple and the Maccabees, etc. This tradition, Jewish fighting tradition, exists. And he finishes off by saying, we need not go to foreign fields of the nations to look how to fight battles when we have in our own backyard treasures of secrets, how to fight wars. Folks, really, really amazing stuff. So, we see very clear in the Tanakh, no negotiations, okay? We go out and to destroy the enemy. This was part 1 with God's help. Next week we will be back for part 2, a must-see. Also, this is a must-see, but also we're going to come to a lot of conclusions, and we're going to go into the Jewish law of freeing hostages, because there's a lot of fog and unclarity out there amongst even the religious Jews. Till next week.